but I'm definitely going to kick off by addressing some of the questions that the scholars already asked. And I mean, when I was going through most of the questions, I was already sweating, The signs were already there that, oh, these are scholars. They really asked, very interesting question, and I'm more than happy to address them. Okay, it looks like someone's mic.
Yeah, please mute yourself. Omoboriowo, looks like the noise is coming from you. And the host and co-host, please mute people as well.
Okay, good. Let's see. Okay, so I tried to group the questions, but when I'm done going through these questions that I have, we can go in any order, depending on who has any question, I can take them in that order. So the first question that I have here is, how do you know if you are supposed to apply for a separate funding for your admission, or is it automatic? So it's a good question. I also struggled with this when I was an applicant, figuring out how to, know when to request for maybe funding, or is it going to come with, funding. So on day one, I talked about this. I said that usually I advise applicants to focus on schools that explicitly state on their admissions page that, they fund all of the admitted students. And there are lots of universities like this, right? I don't think it's going to be a limitation. There are lots of universities that only admit students that they can fund. And the university where I'm studying right now, my program specifically, is a very good example. They won't admit you if they're not going to fund you. And they state it very clearly on their website. So if you've not checked the admissions website already, they communicate this when they reach out to you with an offer. So for example, if you get an admission and then you receive an offer letter saying, dear Ugochukwu, congratulations, you've been admitted to the PhD program in health communication at the University of Iowa. We look forward to having you next fall, right? You can see that this kind of admission has, no funding attached to it. If it has funding attached to it, they will provide additional information, right? So for instance, I had admission offers where if it's the program director or coordinator that is reaching out, they would say, they asked me to keep an eye on my email, that they will be reaching out subsequently with additional information as regards the funding, right? So if it's going to come with funding, they will clearly state it in the admission offer letter. But if it's not going to come with funding, you will see they will speak a lot of grammar and all of that, and then they won't mention anything about funding. So now it's left for you to reach out to the program director or whoever is coordinating that program. And it could be, it should be an email. Appreciate them and the admissions committee for, considering you suitable for the program, and then seek for clarity. Say you received this, you really appreciate them for offering you this admission, and you look forward to resuming. However, nothing was said or mentioned about funding, and you are wondering if they are going to communicate that in a later email. So, that then gives them the opportunity to tell you, okay, congratulations once again. In the subsequent correspondence, we will be reaching out with additional funding information, or they will tell you, unfortunately, we do not have funding for you. And what they do most of the time is they will go ahead and then provide you with funding opportunities on campus. So they will provide links, URLs directing you to funding opportunities on campus. They will tell you, okay, on campus, there are different programs that offer assistantships, could be a teaching assistantship or research assistantships. For example, at my university, there is they have like a job, site that you can go to, and then you will see them post all forms of assistantships from different programs. And the interesting thing about assistantships is that you might be admitted, for instance, in let's say biomedical engineering program, for example, without funding. But given your background, your education, and your experiences, your expertise, you might be able to get a teaching assistantship offer in, let's say, the School of Public Health. And then they will fund your admission, they will fund your education and all of that. So yeah, that's what I can say about that. But in summary, most programs would clarify this on the admissions and funding web pages. So please do well to check that out. Is it true that for schools that put GRE as optional, they actually use the GRE to determine financial awards or scholarships or graduate teaching assistantships, especially for those that submit? Good question. If they don't need your GRE test scores, they will clearly state on the admissions requirement webpage that they don't require this, that they don't need it. In fact, they even take a step, further to tell you that even if you submit it, they are not going to use it. They are not going to consider it, right? But if they just say that GRE submission is optional, if you have it, then it's highly recommended that you submit a GRE. And of course, in situations like this, most of the times when they say optional, they're trying to say if you have a GRE test score that might strengthen your application, you are welcome to submit it. And most of the times they will consider it for funding, right? And again, I like referring applicants to the Q&A sections of every program website that they are interested in. For example, if you go to my university admissions webpage, they have a Q&A, they have a, what do they call it? Frequently asked questions section on their site, where they try to, because they receive a lot of emails from prospective students. So they want to, as much as they can, help provide answers to some of the questions that prospective students might have. So they have like, a frequently asked questions, um, maybe tab on their website, and then they go ahead and ask some of those questions and then provide answers. And some of them include optional GRE or optional test scores, what that means, right? So for some programs, they will tell you that even though this is not required or this is optional, you should note that they are going to use it for financial awards and then assistantships offer. So you want to make sure that you are very clear on that. If you are not, the program director, the admissions office, the program coordinator, they are just an email away from you. Send an email. That's what they are paid to do. It's part of their JD. It's part of what they are paid to do. So reach out, and of course, they will definitely give you the answer that you need. So another question that I have here, which is somewhat related to transcripts and academic records. Someone is asking, for someone who did an A-level program before entry into undergraduate program, how do I submit my transcript? Will they only consider my Bachelor of Science degree transcript? Though some of the required introductory courses were taken during the A-level program. This is a very good question. So, for instance, I did a national diploma, a 2-year national diploma program, in my field before I had to like proceed to get a direct admission into the university. I had to like start in the second year, like year 200 level. That's how I progressed from national diploma to getting a bachelor's degree? So this is a very important question. What I did and what I've recommended for a lot of people with this kind of background is you can submit merged transcripts or submit both of them. One, the main transcript should be the actual transcript that states that you have a bachelor's degree. So the transcript from your bachelor's degree experience should be the main transcript that you will submit where they require transcript submission, because the way the admissions portal is designed is, they have different sections for transcript, test scores, recommendation letter. So on that portal where you fill out informations and submit, if you get to the section where they ask for transcript, the main thing you should submit there should be your bachelor's degree transcript, even though you started from second year, right? Submit that. And most portals will have a section for supplemental materials. What that means is, are there some materials we've not requested, but you think might be very helpful for the admissions committee to have a look at, right? And that's where you can then submit a supplemental material of the A-level transcript. So I highly recommend that you get transcript from the A-level program and transcript from your, actual bachelor's degree program that you did, right? So what I did was I had to like merge both transcripts, but for programs that clearly stated and said submit only your bachelor's degree transcript, or there are some programs and some universities that will provide additional information, additional instructions on what you should do. There are some programs that will tell you do not merge transcripts. So what I would just say on that is, if there is an option to submit supplemental material, submit your bachelor's degree transcript and then submit your A-level transcript as a supplemental material. Make sure you name it properly, right? So that they can easily tell that, okay, this is an additional transcript that you are providing. And something else you might want to do is, most of these admissions portal provide space for you to describe the content of the material. So you might want to provide additional context, right? To explain, to help them understand that you did an A-level program first before getting into before starting your bachelor's degree, and also add that you took some intro level courses while doing your A-level program. So something else to take note here is that, sometimes, education systems vary, and one of the problems that graduates in Nigeria who have the higher national diploma certificate, the HND certificate, the problem they have is that lots of universities don't know what that is, because you first of all do 2-year national diploma program and then you do two-year HND program. So it's confusing. And for some of them, they do like 1 year industrial training. So there's like 1 year gap in between. So it's confusing. They don't know if that's a degree or if these are two separate associate bachelor's degree. So it's left for you to provide that clarification, that context, right? So what I did was, for my 2-year national diploma, I had to let them know that this is an equivalent of a 2-year associate bachelor's degree, right? That prepares you for an actual bachelor's degree. So I had to clarify that. So if it is up to 2 year, I don't know the exact A-level program you did, but if it is a 2-year, if it is up to 2 years, right? That's, it qualifies for an associate bachelor's degree, right? Because it prepared you for that program, and you take a lot of credits, that then make you to skip at least 1 year, you know. So brand that as an associate bachelor's degree. Okay, so an example could be a 2-year national diploma program or a 3-year NCE program, right? This is offered by, what is it called? Colleges of Education in Nigeria. So that could qualify as associate bachelor's degree. If it's less than 2 years, most of them are like 9 months to 12 months or sometimes 10 months. Some examples are JUPEB, IJMB, remedial programs, pre-degree programs, NAPTEP. Some of these don't, some of them qualify you to get into the second year of your program, while some of them, help you get admission into the first year of your program. Okay. So, but if it's just a few months program, like 10 months, 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, that's like a pre-bachelor's degree. And most of these are offered by even the university itself, right? So just label this degree appropriately so that the admissions committee can actually have an understanding of what it means in the context of the country where you are submitting the application to. And then lastly, communicate with the program director or the coordinator, or even the admissions office, the university admissions office itself, right? Explain this background and ask them how you could better label and better upload your materials in a way that they can understand. And for most of the schools that I applied to and got into direct PhD programs, they waived what is it called again? They waived the national diploma transcript submission. When you finally get all these offers and you decide that, okay, this is where I want to go to, and then you get your I-20 and all of those. They want you to submit an official transcript directly from your university or institution to their own university. So they said, okay, since this is what qualified you to get into a bachelor's degree program, we wouldn't need you to send a direct official transcript from your university. Just send us the bachelor's degree transcript directly from the university. So yeah, that's what I can say about that. If you have questions, just wait when I run through all of these questions, then we can start talking about some of these questions that you might have. And then, yeah, so I got additional questions on statement of purpose, even though we had time, we had dedicated time where we talked about writing good statements and essays. So this question says, how do we get an idea to write our opening statement, especially when it's in-depth research that you can't really tie to an occurrence growing up or something around us? I have a challenge coming up with that banger opening statement that just does it. This is a good question. We talked about this, when we discussed writing a very good statement on day one, right? But I will still take time to talk about this because I think it's very important. Your opening statement, that very first paragraph on your statement, be it an SOP, be it personal statement, be it any kind of any kind of essay that they require of you, is very important. This is what will catch the attention of the person reading your application. This is what will not only catch their attention, but also sustain their attention, right? If it's very well written, they might want to continue reading to understand, okay, yeah, this is really good. Let's see, right? So if that thing that is motivating you to go into grad school, maybe for a master's or PhD program, is very big on research. It's mostly a research issue or problem. And you can't tie it to an occurrence that maybe something that happened while growing up. It's something that I feel has become a cliche. Talking about something that happened when growing up, you don't even have to worry about that. It's a cliche now. People have read it over and over, and they just want to read something else, right? Or something around us. This one, if what is motivating you to go into grad school is not something that is happening around us, then I wonder what that can be, you know. I wonder what that can be, but this very person can follow up later, or when we open up, the Q&A session, you can come up and provide additional context. But I wonder what that research problem might be that isn't something happening around us or something that has happened around us. Even if it's something you are predicting that it will happen, around us. So I'm just wondering, right? But I think for every opening statement that does it, it's that opening statement, that not only identifies a problem, but also talks about the impact of that problem. Why is it a significant problem? Why should we, yeah, why does this matter? Why should we pay attention to this? What will happen if nothing is done about this, right? So identify a problem. I think the next question provides like an avenue to address that too. What makes an application or personal statement stand out? So for a personal statement or a statement of purpose or for any kind of essay, it is very important that you identify a problem, identify that thing that motivates you to go into grad school, right? What impacts does it have on humanity? We are finding ways to solve problems that confront humans, or even if it's the ecosystem, that we exist within, right? So what is that problem? What impact does it have on us as human beings, or even the environment within which we exist? Why is it important? And they don't just want to read about that problem, they want to read about what has prepared you for this task. It's a problem, it's a big task. We want to know what background you have, what experiences that you have that you think you can continue to build on, right? And that's what I, call capacity. You don't have to be an expert. If you're already an expert, then you don't need to further. You don't need to further your studies, right? Even the full-fledged professors that we have continue to do research, they continue to read, they continue to learn, and they continue to contribute to knowledge. So capacity, what qualifications do you have? What experiences do you have? What sort of expertise are you bringing that will help you contribute to solving this problem, that will help contribute to addressing that motivation that you have going into grad school? And then another thing that makes an application also stand out is your fit for the program and also applicant faculty fit, right? Is this the right program for you? I've seen situations where someone applies to a program and then they offer them admission into another program. So in that situation, the admissions committee, sometimes it's a college-wide admissions committee, and then they realize, okay, this application is not very suitable for the program they are applying to, but it's a very perfect fit for another program offered in our college, right? So sometimes they just push your application materials to that department, or if they are the same set of people who are um, reviewing applications for that same program, they just offer you admission in that program. I don't know how many people who have experienced that, but some mentees and people who are close to me have seen that happen, right? So you want to make sure that there is a perfect fit between, the qualifications you have, the experiences you have, and the program that you are applying to. Programs have gone interdisciplinary, so this is something to consider too. Even if it's an interdisciplinary program, you want to make sure that you've taken the required intro level courses that they need. You have some of the experiences that they require. And a very good question someone else asked that we'll get to, some of them, list some skills that they want you to have, right? So you want to make sure that you're a very good fit for that program. And there is also a faculty or two or more who are doing the kind of research that you intend to do or you are currently doing. It might not be exactly the kind of research you are doing, right? But there are faculty who can provide mentorship, guidance, advice as you, do the program. And then goals. They want to know, why are you doing this program? What will you do with this degree, right? It helps them understand that clarity of purpose that you have. I've never been on an admissions committee, to be very honest. Everything I share is based on my experience and based on the experiences of several other successful applicants. But you want to be sure that you are clearly communicating your goals. And that is why on day one, I talked about your statement, or in fact, the entire application pack being about your past, your present, and your future. What you've done, what you are currently doing, what you intend to do. Once that is very clear, you know, it's in a way, it's something that makes an application stand out. So for instance, do you want to become a professor in the future? Okay, this is a PhD program. We train people to become professors in the future. That's, you know, something we can do. But if your career goals, for instance, don't align with, you know, the kind of things that are done in that program, it will be, oh, okay, we don't train professors here. We don't teach or train people to become professors. So we are sorry, we might not be the best program for you, right? Another question here is, I am yet to start my master's research. I will complete this master's research before fall 2026. If you were in my shoes, how will you address this in your essays to show research potential? So I want to mention here that if you did an undergraduate program that tasked you to work on a thesis, what we call final year project in Nigeria, that's already a research experience. The process of, you know, identifying a research problem, identifying your research questions, your hypothesis, doing the actual research, the experiments, all of those things, surveys, gathering data, analyzing data, having your findings and discussing these findings, their implications, and all of those things. That's already a research experience. It might not be in a published form, but it's already a research experience, which is why I highly encourage people to take additional steps to have their thesis, their undergraduate thesis published, right? But something else you could also do is present your research ideas at conferences. If there is a colloquium happening somewhere in your department or program or even in the university, try to go there, submit abstract, present that research idea and add it on your CV and by extension on your essay, right? Um, most of these conferences do not allow, they don't expect you to have a full study that has already been published somewhere, or a full study you've already completed, or maybe a full paper that you have already written. Some of them allow you to, talk about works in progress, right? Just tell us about this research you are doing, at what stage are you, and then you get feedback. Conferences are opportunities for feedback to improve your study. So these are ways you can, improve on, and then, acquire more research experience, and of course, um, add them on your essays. So for instance, there is an essay writing strategy, an SOP writing strategy that I talked about on day one, talking about identifying a problem, talking about the impact, the significance of that problem, why it is important to research or address this problem, um, and why this is what is prompting you to apply for this master's or PhD program, right? Moving from there to then talking about qualifications, experiences, expertise that you have, that you can build on or continue to build on, that one day you will become an expert in addressing this issue, right? Moving away from there, you'll talk about, um, why this program, why this university? There might be hundreds or thousands of universities and programs that offer this program. Why are you applying to our program or to our university? They want to know that. So that's where you tell them about the availability of you know, uh, top rated faculty, highly cited professors, state-of-the-art learning environment, research labs that are situated there at the university, and all of these things, resources for graduate students, and how that, has attracted you. So we'll also talk about um, university or program ranking if they're highly ranked and all of those things, right? And then why talking about these experiences, for instance, that I talked about, you can then talk about how, for instance, you've earned a bachelor's degree, you graduated top of your class, you received XYZ awards, you've, led initiatives, you've occupied leadership positions, and, that led to impacts within the society where you live, and all of these things. Briefly, a tight paragraph that talk about these accomplishments. That's definitely where you can also talk about how you've acquired, several research experiences, talk about conferences that you've attended and presented at, and all of those things. Yeah, you can also submit to journals, right? And then include them on your CV as research papers that are under review or ongoing research, right? And then include them on your essay. So I have a question here that has to do with the CV. So someone says, I discovered that most of the advertised openings in my area of interest require a strong foundation and deep knowledge of a programming language. Most especially AI/ML engineering skills are needed. However, I am at my learning stage. I usually state it clearly in my CV and cover letter/email that I am currently learning. I am wondering if this is okay. What can I do to improve my chances of getting admitted and funding in this situation? So I think what you should do is stating your skill level, right? People are at different skill levels, and even when it comes to programming, there are people who are beginners, right? You could say you are still a beginner, or you are somewhere at the intermediate level, right? Or you've gained advanced knowledge and experience in programming, or you are a pro, or stuff like that. Instead of just saying you are still learning, I think it will be more important to provide this additional information. Let them know at what level of learning are you. Even experts still learn, right? Experts still, they continue to read and research and read more and learn. So people still learn, even experts, right? It's right to still learn, but what level are you in that learning process, right? So you have to indicate that on your CV that you're either beginner or intermediate, and then state the specific task that you can execute, right? Can you build apps? Can you develop a website? Are you good at data management and data analysis or data visualization? Can you do speed optimization? Can you identify and fix vulnerabilities, for example? So these are just examples of things people with certain skills, especially in programming, can do. So you want to be sure that you've mentioned things that you can do with the skill that you are currently acquiring. For instance, if you are looking for someone to build you a website, right? You might reach out to several people and realize that their skill level varies, right? Um, they all have the skills, but the skill level varies. There's a website you will visit and you will just love it. You just love the interface. You just love um, the front end, especially what you see in the front end and all of those things. So it just shows that the people who built these different sites have varying skills in that, but they all can build websites. So you want to be specific on the things you can do with the knowledge you are currently acquiring. That's what I would say on that. And then still on application strategy and competitiveness, someone asked, how do you determine if you are a competitive applicant for a program or school, as we only have limited application fee options? It's good that you already know some of the limitations that you have, and one of them is application fee, right? It poses a significant challenge, right? Especially Naira dollar exchange rate, right? So having that knowledge already shows that you are one step ahead and you are focusing mostly on schools that are able to provide you with application fee waiver, right? I feel like the way to know that you are a competitive applicant is by meeting or exceeding requirements, right? So if you go to the website of the program, every program has a website and they have a section on the website where they describe the application process, all that they require of you in the application process. So if they mention the things that they require, let's say a CV, a statement, a writing sample, GRE, and all of those things. They say, okay, GRE is optional. And then you have all of this, but you don't have a writing sample. A writing sample can be a research paper that you've published or, something that you've written, especially an academic work that you've written, but you've not published, right? Yeah, and of course, the way to lay claim to that would be when the similarity score is somewhere between 0 to 10%, right? They could run that content against, let's say they could submit it to Turnitin, authenticate, and if it returns a significantly low similarity score, it shows, okay, this is an authentic document, right? So if you don't have a writing sample and you don't have a GRE test score, and they've said these are optional and you've submitted, if I were you, I would tell myself the truth and say, yeah, I met some of the requirements that are not optional, but I also did not meet some of the optional requirements. I am not a competitive applicant for that program, although I have submitted, but my hopes will not be so high. But it's the irony of these applications sometimes is the programs that you think you won't get into, those are the programs you end up getting into. And then the programs you have high hopes. Oh, I exceed the requirements and I think I'm competitive. Sometimes you don't get into those programs. There is absolutely no way to determine this ahead of time, but um, your CV, your application materials can give you some level of confidence. If you've done a lot of work, it can give you some level of confidence, right? So for me, I would say when you exceed the requirements and go beyond what is even required. So for example, if they say submit one writing sample and then you go ahead and submit 3 or 4 writing samples, right? You're already exceeding that requirement. If they say GRE is optional and you have GRE test score and you submit it, you're already exceeding that requirement, right? So if you meet and exceed, that's what makes you competitive. What's the best way to balance academic excellence and extracurricular achievements in applications, especially for competitive programs like Chevening, DAD, or Fulbright? This is a good question. I would say the way to balance these two would be to address both of them, right? It would be to address both of them. And the next question provides avenue to even explain that better. There are certain values that nearly all programs and all universities value. So you want to make sure that you are bringing all of this to bear, right? So I would say programs like Chevening, DAD, Fulbright, Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, most of these are non-service scholarships. They don't require you to, after you get the scholarship, they don't require you to render any service. They don't require you to teach. They don't require you to do research in return for whatever stipend they would give you, right? They just want you to concentrate, study, do your thing, and then if they have maybe monthly activities or something they do once in a while, they require you to attend and all of those things. That's different, but mostly they don't require you to do anything. So the process is then very unique to each of them. And the thing I like about programs or scholarships like Chevening, DAD, or Fulbright is they have detailed explanation of what they are looking for. And some of them even go ahead to provide you some of the success stories of previous applicants. They let you know what an ideal applicant looks like. They paint a picture of the applicant they are looking for, right? So if I were you, what I would do is go through each of those detailed requirements and see what they are looking for. Some of these programs are for professionals. They are looking out for people who have extensive knowledge and experience in their profession. So you want to then make sure you ask yourself, okay, in my field as a journalist, in my field as an engineering, what are the things that make one an exceptional engineer, right? And then you go ahead to check those boxes, right? But then the best way to balance is talk about your academic accomplishments and also talk about accomplishments that are outside of academy, right? The extracurricular achievements that you've had for yourself. Just balance it. But why I might not give you a specific response is that these scholarships applications are all different and unique. In fact, there are some of them that require up to 5 different essays on different topics, different things. Some of them require scholarship essay on leadership. Some of them require scholarship essay on different things. So they have very unique and diverse requirements. But the good thing that they do is that they provide you a detailed explanation of what they are looking for. So, how can I frame my achievements, STEM leadership awards, research presentations, so they match the specific values of my chosen institution? What I will say here is that every academic institution shares similar values. In as much as they might have certain values that they prioritize, they share similar values, right? Every academic institution, so excellence, every academic institution appreciates and rewards excellence. They appreciate and reward innovation. They appreciate and reward curiosity. They appreciate someone who has a curious mind, who is eager to learn, who wants to learn more, who is hungry for knowledge, right? They recognize and appreciate people who have demonstrated experience in collaboration, people who want to work with people. These are people that can survive in a community, right? If you have publications, let's say if you have 5 publications, why that is an amazing accomplishment as a researcher, especially if you are still at the application level and you already have, let's say, 5 publications. Some admissions committee might frown at that if all of the 5 or all of the 3, all of the 4 publications are solo publications. If they are all solo authored publications, it might signal that you are someone who doesn't like to collaborate. In as much as they appreciate your independence as a researcher, they also appreciate someone who is willing to collaborate with others, right? And then service, every academic institution, rewards service. That is why, for instance, in R1 institutions, they prioritize teaching, research, and service. Most of the things professors do revolve around these 3. They teach, they research, and they offer services. They do things, they take up leadership positions that they're not paid for. They go to conferences, they, lead initiatives that they don't get paid for, and all of those things. So every institution, every scholarship program appreciates if you demonstrate service. Okay, that you've been a leader, you've served, or you currently serve in different capacities. What have you been able to do with that, these leadership positions and all of that? They appreciate it. It's not tied to just one institution. So I'm saying this because this question is about trying to match your accomplishment with specific values of the choosing institutions. They also appreciate honesty. That is why you may have heard about people who lost their admission offers, who lost funding offers 1 year into their program, 2 years into their programs, when they finally realize that, oh, this person is a fraud. They submitted a plagiarized statement of purpose, they submitted something, a material that is not theirs, or maybe they claimed someone else's research, right? And then they just claim, oh, I'm the one who published this. If they later find out that, okay, you didn't publish this, or something about your application doesn't add up, right? It goes against that uh, honesty value that almost every institution appreciates. So you have to be honest, in your applications. Then professionalism, they want to see, that is why I talk about career goals all the time. They want to see, so for instance, do you have a clear sense of where you belong or what you intend to do in the future? That's why most masters and PhD students always talk about whether going to the industry or being in academia, for instance. So you want to have a clear sense of, purpose, a clear sense of, where you see yourself in the next 3, 5 years, where you see yourself in the next 10 years. And what have you done to show that, or what do you intend to do to show that? I talked about belonging to professional organizations, professional associations, professional societies, within your own field. It shows that, okay, you already know what you want, you're already identifying your community, and you're already joining and associating with your community. And then someone asked a question about interviews and selection. Mostly, so for instance, someone talked about Fulbright scholarships, Commonwealth Share Scholarship, DAD, Chevney. Most of them have the interview phase where, okay, after sifting out their most qualified applicants and saying, okay, we've rejected these applications. These ones have progressed to the interview stage. We would like to meet you, learn more about, your interest, your research, your goals, and all of those things. So it's not restricted to applying to a PhD program. In fact, there are even master's programs that might require you to do an interview before you get your offer from them, right? It's rare at the master's level, but it's very common at the PhD level. I also did interviews for some of my PhD applications, right? So some of the questions that are very common, and these are not only unique to the PhD applications, but they also cut across. Sometimes they let you know who you'll be interviewing with. They will reach out to you and say, dear Ugochukwu, congratulations. Your application has progressed to the next stage, and we would like to invite you to come interview with our faculty. And then they go ahead to mention maybe 3 or 4 professors that will be at that interview. So what you get, and most of the times they carefully select this committee, these professors based on your interest. So for someone like me who wanted to do health communication, for all the interviews I attended, they brought professors who are doing health-related research, right? And then maybe the program director is there who might be doing a different kind of research, So they will just take turns and introduce themselves. Oh, hi, I'm Professor this. This is the kind of research I do. I've been at this university for a while, and it's nice meeting you. They just take turns, they introduce themselves, and then they hand the floor over to you, right? And most of the time, the first question they will start with is, tell us about yourself. This is a very good opportunity to say a lot about yourself, sell yourself, but you might be carried away if you don't know when to stop, because tell us about yourself appears to be very simple, but you can end up saying a lot, right? So you have to understand that some of the things you did, let's say, pre-higher education might not really matter, but you might reference some of them. So you want to concentrate on mostly your bachelor's, degree experience. And if very important, you can reference and talk about maybe some things that happened 5, 10 years ago, that just to reinforce certain things. But don't start by telling us, oh, I went to this school for my kindergarten, I went to this for high school, I went to this for, no. They already know that you need to go to high school to go to university. So you don't have to say some of those things. So just start with the most recent experiences and only reference back to just reinforce something, right? They can just ask you, so tell us about yourself. So what I would usually do when I was applying was, of course, just say my name again, um, tell them that I'm a recent graduate of mass communication. I studied at the Ebonyi State University, where I graduated top of my class, blah, 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 say those things and talk about what inspired me or motivated me to go into doing health communication research and all of those things. So, but just very briefly, your academic qualification, what you currently do, what has inspired you to do what you do, and what drew you to that university. Sometimes by talking about these things, you already get ahead and address some questions they might have, you know, ahead of you. So some of the questions are, why do you want to pursue a master's or PhD program? They want to know what inspires you, what motivates you. What is that thing that happened that maybe changed your worldview or that influenced your decision? For me, I talked about how witnessing what is it called again? The Ebola, the outbreak of Ebola disease in Nigeria, what happened, how the spread of misinformation regarding the perceived cure for the dreaded virus, led to the death and passing of some people, especially people who were suffering from hypertension. It made me realize the dangers of health misinformation. And I was like, okay, I think this is what I need to do, right? So you could talk about that. What made you want to pursue a master's? There should be an interest. There should be a motivation. Might be several things, but you want to talk about something that has, that can convince someone to understand that, okay, this is motivating enough. This is inspiring enough. I mean, there are people who just want to acquire a master's or PhD program simply because they want to have that degree. There are people who just want to answer doctor. That's why they are going to do a PhD. So you don't want to tell the admissions committee, oh, I want to have a PhD. That's why, I'm going to do a doctoral program. No, they want to know something that is motivating you. What are your research interests or something you propose studying? You have to realize that they know that this interest can change. There are people who came into the university, into their PhD program with the intent to do some sort of research, but they ended up doing another kind of research, especially for their dissertation. So it's absolutely okay and fine if you are not yet very clear on that, but you want to talk about something you would love to do. And as you're answering that question, make sure that you are talking about a professor or two at that university who are doing that kind of research and why you are attracted to that program, right? So for me, what I was doing was that um, I use a lot of I use a lot of emotional appeal, not in the sense of, oh, I come from a poor family, I don't have a father, I don't have a mother, I live on the tree. If you don't give me this scholarship, my life is over. No, not that aspect of emotional appeal, right? What I do is, for instance, if the people who attended that interview are professors doing my kind of research, I hype them, right? I talk about how I have read, some of their recent publications and how they are really doing, great job in the field, right? And how I would love to learn and work with the best in the field, right? So, it makes them, and most of them would smile. Okay, okay, so you just want to let them know they are doing a great job, and because of the kind of research they are doing, the recognition they are getting in the field, that has sort of attracted you to the program. You would like to learn from the very best. You would love to work with the very best. So I sort of, hype them. And I know Dr. Taiwo does this a lot when he writes um, the EB1A petitions, talking about how America is great and how his client would contribute significantly to, making America the greatest country on earth, even though it's already the greatest. So why this university or supervisor? Some programs will require you to clearly state who you would love to work with, right? So for me, even for programs that did not require me to state the professors that I would love to work with, I did mention the professors, right? Remember, I talk about the section on your essay where you talk about why this program, why this university. So after talking about how the school is exceptional, how it has a state-of-the-art learning environment and all of those things, I go ahead to say that my fit for this program is further strengthened by the availability of faculty who do health communication research, especially health misinformation. Then I would say, for instance, Dr. Tully, who is an expert on health literacy and health misinformation, blah, 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 blah. That's just to, let the admissions committee know that I've done my research about the program, that I know the professors that are doing my kind of research, and that I would love to work with Dr. X and Dr. Y and Dr. Z. Why this university or supervisor already answered that. How does your background prepare you for this research? Remember day one, I talked about going to a program, even if it's interdisciplinary, make sure that the experiences you have, the skills you've acquired, the qualifications you have, have a way of making you stand out as the ideal applicant, right? So for instance, I studied mass communication at the bachelor's degree level, and health communication is an interdisciplinary program that is literally in between public health and mass communication, right? So someone with a public health background can do health communication, someone with mass communication background can do health communication. So I talked about how my mass communication background would make me, a very good and exceptional health communication research, because I already have that communication experience and background. And I would now love to learn about more of the health component, right? So you want to see how you can use that your background to your advantage. What are your long-term career goals? They want to know what you intend to do beyond this program, right? So if you're applying to a PhD program and then you start talking about, yeah, after my PhD program, I would love to open up a business, and I want to start selling African food, somewhere here in Iowa City and all of that. You can see that it does not correlate, going from spending 3 to 5 years of your life acquiring a PhD to becoming a business person. Even if that is what you intend to do, that would do you a lot of disservice, you know. So you want to talk about something that aligns with what the PhD program or the master's program prepares you for. So if you are going into a PhD program in, let's say, um, in any program at all, you want to talk about, mostly we know that PhD programs prepare people to go into academia and also industry. So you could either talk about an industry-based position that you might want to, you know, do or take up after your PhD program, but you want to make sure that it is a position that might be difficult to get without having a PhD. If it is a position that even someone with a bachelor's degree can get, then it might put intent, to question. So make sure it's something that aligns with the degree that you are going to acquire. But most important selection criteria that I know of is that they want to know about your academic performance. They are going to consider your academic performance, your academic accomplishments. They would want to know about research proposal. Here doesn't mean you have to write a full-fledged research proposal. There are, some PhD programs that will require you to write a research proposal, the few of them, right? But most of them will not require you to do that. So by research proposal, what you intend to do, right? What is the quality of the kind of research that you're talking about that you want to do? And then supervisor-student fit. I mentioned this before. They want to know if they have a faculty that will serve as a good mentor, a good advisor for you throughout your master's or PhD program. Research experience, very important, especially if you are going to a research intensive program or a research intensive university. You want to make sure you demonstrate some sort of research experience. And I already mentioned that your bachelor's thesis, your master's thesis, these are already research experiences. Attending and presenting at conferences are already research experiences, and all of those things. Then interview performance. How did you respond to the question? How did you address these questions? What was the overall performance? Were they impressed? In fact, to be very honest with you, I knew the programs that I would get into the moment the interview was done, right? Because I could tell, like, the way the professors were excited, the way they were smiling. I know some smiles could be deceptive, but I could read their faces. I mean, maybe this is because I have a communication background and I know how to distinguish from verbal and non-verbal cues, right? So I could tell from their faces, right? The way they were responding to the conversation and all of those things, I could already tell the atmosphere, let me put it that way, the atmosphere that I was able to ignite, I could already tell that, oh, I have this. And for most of them, right after the interview, they just followed up with an offer. So they would want to, when you are off the interview, they would just ask everyone on the interview, what do you think? And then they just give their opinion and the admissions. The program director, who is definitely the person to reach out, will take note of that and reach out to you. So second to the last slide that I have before I will open it up to everyone. Someone asked, when researching about a professor, when researching about a supervisor, what are the little signs you looked for that made you say, this is the right person to be with and he or she will actually support me? Okay. I don't know if I talked about rate my professor on the last on the previous what is it called? Day one when we met last week, but it's also an important place to go and read reviews from students about the professor. If you go to rate my professor, I think it's ratemyprofessor.com. But if you just search rate my professor, the result, the search results would show you the site. And you go there, you look for the university, you search for the professor, and then you see what students they've taught in the past are saying about them. It's also important to know that some professors are really nice, but they have low rating on Rate My Professor. So you want to read further to know what are the grievances of the students. Some of the students are just not happy with the professor because they give a lot of readings. Some are not happy because they are tough graders. Some are not happy because so yeah, so be able to just have this sense of discernment, be able to tell, oh no, this is not something serious, or oh, this is something to be serious about. If the students are talking about the professor not replying to their emails, or how they felt sick and they reached out to the professor and the professor never did anything to help them out of the situation, just watch out for some red flags when you read the comments that the students leave there. right? Some of the best professors don't have the best ratings on Rate My Prof. So just know what the students are complaining about and what they are, um, you know, what they are happy about and what they are not impressed about. So for me, something that I did was I did a lot of cold emailing, and then I also judged from how the professors responded, the tone of their response. You could tell the kindness from, how soon they responded. Did they apologize when they responded late? Um, you know, Even after getting an admission offer, did they follow up and all of those things? So, and I also met with nearly all of them on Zoom. So I could tell from the conversation, is this someone who is fun to be with? Is this someone who is just there? Do I think I might struggle to, build a rapport with this person? And then yeah, but I was mostly interested in the faculty student fit. So I went through their what is it called? Google Scholar, ResearchGate profiles, and then I looked at the most recent publications. Okay, what kind of research are they doing now? Does it align with my kind of research? Um, what's their research paradigm? What kind of research do they do? So, for instance, in my field, the two dominant paradigms we have social scientists and we have the humanists, people who take humanistic approaches. So I do not like the humanistic approach to doing research. Um, so I didn't want to have a professor you know, who has that as their research paradigm. So I love social scientific research and I know what it is. So when I read a paper, I already know the approach due to the kind of methods and their approach to doing research. So I considered that. Then what else did I consider? Yeah. So mostly through emails, I could tell. Maybe because I have a communication background, but I could tell from the email. People who know me, beyond social media, they know that I read meaning into every word, every phrase, every sentence, every paragraph. I could tell, I could tell that something is wrong, and someone might think, oh, nothing is wrong. So I have a good sense of discerning, knowing when things are going right or not, even if you try to package the message very well. So from the email interactions and the Zoom sessions, I could tell, oh, if this is someone I can work with. But the most important thing is the research they do and reach out to current students in the program and say, hey, Ugo, just introduce yourself. I'm a prospective doctoral student, and I'm considering applying to the PhD program at your university. And I intend working with this professor, and I'm wondering if you can connect me with some of their current advisees, right? Some of the students that they work with, right? Most of the students would do that. They will let you know, hi, okay, based on my knowledge, I know that this professor works with these students and this and this. I have copied them in this email. And then you can follow up with them. And then, you know, one thing that I know about graduate students is they love sharing with prospective students. I know students who would tell prospective students, don't come to this school, don't come to my program. This is what I'm facing now, and I wouldn't want anyone else to face the same thing. They will be very honest. They will tell you, right? But another strategy that also worked with me was identifying the Nigerians or Africans in the program. I just felt somehow that there will be this sense of identity. Oh, this is my brother, they'll be more and easily moved to respond to my email. I just had that, maybe call it bias, but I had that. And I reached out to only Nigerian and African students in the program that I wanted to apply to, and most of the time they responded. And in fact, we even established contacts beyond emailing. I had like their phone number. I would text them, chat them once in a while, and before they were telling me more about the program and cost of living and all of those things. In fact, if a student is applying to my program and they want to apply to study health communication and they want to know about professors who are doing health communication research, I could easily refer them to the professors. Even if they want to know some of the students who work with them, I'm more than willing to share that. It's not what is it called? It's not an information that we are restricted from sharing. And then lastly, before I turn it over to everyone else, recommendation letter. Someone asks, how should I approach referees for strong recommendation letters? In terms of approach, I always tell people who are currently undergrads, don't hate your professors. I know some of them do things that make us want to say, oh, once I'm done with this program, I don't want to have anything to do with this professor, right? Try to build rapport. I mean, most of you, I don't know if any of you is still an undergraduate, but I don't think so. I do tell those who are still undergraduates, build a very good relationship with some of your professors, because there are professors that no matter what you do and no matter how hard you try, you might not be able to build a good rapport with them. So those that appear approachable, try to build a good rapport with them. Don't just show up only when you need emails, when you need recommendations. What I did for myself was I knew some of the professors who were really proud of what I was doing as an undergraduate. In fact, from time to time, when they see me on campus, Ugo, you are really doing a good job. Keep it up, things like that. And then even though I wanted to be a student, I wanted to be a student that wasn't known even among the classmates. It wasn't possible. In fact, one of the professors came to class the very first day of class after exam. So we wrote first semester exam. So when we resumed for second semester exam, one of the professors came and said, okay, that he saw this answer script and he was like, there is no way an undergrad would write this. That it was as if he was reading an answer script from a student in a master's program. And that was how, some of these things are not ethical. That was how he just went out and just exposed me to the class. So most of them loved what I was doing and they were very open about it. So I used that opportunity. So I stayed close, right? And the moment I had that intention to apply to schools abroad, I just reached out to them and said, hey, this is what I'm considering. And I would, like you to write me recommendation letters. And they were like, okay, cool. That's okay. And something else that I noticed people ask a lot about recommendation letter. They ask if it's a must to use your supervisor. Unless the program, unless the program states it clearly and explicitly on the admissions requirement page that they would require a recommendation letter from your supervisor, your undergraduate supervisor. It's not a requirement. I didn't use mine because things didn't go well. I didn't know what I did, even though I tried, to have a good rapport with my supervisor, but I couldn't. In fact, I was one of the few students who had a B in my project, in my undergraduate thesis. And this is, I think, about 6 credits. So you know how the impact a B would have on your entire CGPA. So I noticed at the point that my supervisor deliberately didn't want me to graduate with a first class. In fact, I took several other classes with my supervisor, and no matter how I read and wrote, he would always give me a B. So I already knew I didn't use. So use only professors who are very, very willing and are supportive, who are willing. Don't use professors who appear as though you are forcing them to do it. These are people that will provide weak recommendations for you. Professors who are very willing to support you will write you strong recommendations. And like I said the last time, some professors are willing to let you send them a draft, right? Most of the times, it's not like they're going to adapt the entire draft. The draft helps them see some of the things you want them to incorporate into the recommendation later. So for me, it was an opportunity to talk about my accomplishment, my strengths as an applicant. So they were able to then see those elements and then incorporate them into their recommendations. And if you are able to establish the rapport, you can always talk with them on the phone. You can text them, text back and forth with them. And a very good strategy for establishing a good relationship with them is celebrate them. If it's their birthday, get close to them, know when it's their birthday. Even if it's 500 naira recharge card or 1,000 naira recharge card, send them, celebrate them. It's a digital world today. Most of them are on social media. Post about them. If they publish, a research, if they publish a paper, share it, gain their attention, do things that will bring you into their corner. And that way you have their blessings, I would say that way. But I feel like a very good recommendation later is one that talks about, you know, how prepared you are for the program and what that program stands to benefit from having you as a student. Um, your fit for the program, what they stand to benefit from you as a student, how they got to know you, which is mostly the first thing. Dear admissions committee, my name is Dr. Michael Taiwo, an associate professor at the University of Benin. I have known Ugo for 5 years since he was an undergrad at the University of Benin. I taught him this. So there should be this introduction that links the professor or the recommender to you as the applicant. How In what capacity do they know you? Is it as your supervisor at, workplace? Are they your supervisor at the workplace? Were they your professor? If they were your professor, as an undergrad, what courses did they teach you? Did you perform well in the course? These are very good ways of writing a good recommendation. This is who you are. This is how you got to know Ugochukwu. You taught Ugo in maybe first year, second year. They did excellently well in those courses. And because of how they performed, you are very confident they will also perform well if admitted into this program. You then go ahead to talk about some other qualities that they have, right? Do they have leadership qualities? Have they led projects in your class? Do they, collaboration? How do they work with other students and all of those things? I don't have like an exact structure for that, but something that I saw Dr. Taiwo post recently, I think he was recommending someone and then he saw what the program or the university is expecting of him, the structure, the components, things that they need to see in the recommendation later. So most of the programs would give you, will tell you what they want to see, in the recommendation later. So if you have access to that, then you might want to borrow insights from what they want and then make a draft, that sort of reflect the things that they want to see and share um with your referees. Don't reach out to them 2 days to deadline. Reach out to them way ahead of time. Stay in contact, right? And then always send reminders. Okay, so with these, I am going to turn it over to the MT scholars. Um, yeah, whatever questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Ugo, for the detailed session. I believe we have some questions in the chat box. But I think I'll just call them to go ahead and ask their questions live.
Okay.
Yeah. So first we have Zachary. Zachary, you can unmute.
Okay. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. We learn a lot actually. And although he made a clarification on the question that I want to ask, it's about that I just going the university through direct entry with my NCE, that is 3-year NCE. And I had an issue in the previous year with Missouri University. After my application, they even waived the fee. So they are asking me to send the transcript for that NCE. So I went to the school and collected the transcript and submitted it to the portal. But at the end of the day, they are just telling me that that's not the kind of transcript that they require. It's like I have to take it to that waste evaluation. So my question is, right now that you say that they don't usually require it, so do you think it's a good idea like to even make use of that transcript for waste evaluation? That's the first question. And the second question is while we are applying for the scholarship in the application form of most of the universities, I used to come across some areas where they are asking if we have applied for other schools. So how are we going to address this? Like we applied for so many schools. Are we going to include them there or we just leave it blank? So these are my questions. Thank you very much.
Good. These are good questions. These are good questions. So I'll start with the first one. So you talked about you said you went to a college of education, you acquired an NCE first, right? Before you then proceeded to acquire your bachelor's degree. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right.
Good, good. So you talked about so I want to clarify something. Not all programs do what I said, that was based on the experience of the few schools that I applied to, saying, okay, but they want to see all of these transcripts. They want to see the associate or pre-bachelor's degree transcript and then see the actual bachelor's degree transcript to be able to make their decision. But at the end of the day, they only required me to forward official transcripts from my bachelor's degree to them. So this does not apply to all schools. So if there are schools and programs that require that, then you have to do it. And sometimes they might not. So I provided some sort of clarifications last week that any transcript you have access to, that you have opened and you have access to and you are uploading by yourself, it's an unofficial transcript, irrespective of the fact that it has been signed and endorsed by your university. It's unofficial because you have access to it. It's official transcript when the university or the College of Education sends it directly to your university, right? So if they require you to evaluate, to do WES evaluation, or WES is just one of the organizations that do credential evaluation. It's the most popular. There are other ones. There is one they call ECE, right? Just make sure the university accepts that particular type of evaluation before you do it. Okay. It's part of the school search strategy that I require of applicants, making sure that you are considering these things before sending out your application. Does the school or program require that I evaluate my credential? If they do I want to do that? If you don't want to do that, then you should just take that school off your list. But if they state that they require credential evaluation, then you have to do it and you must do credential evaluation. West, for instance, will not accept the transcript that you have access to. What West does is they will ask you to ask your university or polytechnic or college of education to send your transcript directly to them. And when West receives that, they evaluate it. And for a school that requires you to submit West evaluation, you have to instruct West to send it to the school. So you are not the one who is supposed to send it. I don't know if that's very clear, but when I'm done with the second question, you can follow up. The second question you talked about schools or programs asking you to mention if you have applied or considering applying to other schools and other programs while you are filling out the application online. This is true. I've seen this, and I also feel that part when I was applying. So what I make of that aspect of the application is that sometimes it serves different purposes. Sometimes they want to know who their competitors are. It's for data purposes, it's for them to, at the end of the day, they might realize, okay, most of the people who apply to our programs also apply to MIT, also apply to Harvard. So with this, we know that we are competing with MIT, Harvard, XYZ for applicants. It can serve that purpose. Another purpose I think it can serve is they want to know if you have options. So for example, if someone has applied to just one program, then they are caught in between offering and giving a fully funded offer to two students, and they have only one offer to make. They are going to consider several other factors. Okay, it looks like Ugo said he applied to 8 other programs or other schools. That means Ugo has more chances of getting into other programs. But John said he applied to only our program. So if we deny John of this offer, John has no other offer to get from anywhere else. So it can serve several other purposes, right? So what I did was that because I applied to few programs, remember I talked about the honesty value that every academic institution appreciates. I applied to 5 programs, 5 universities, and then I got 6 offers. So I got 2 offers from university. That's incorrect. I applied to 7 programs, 2 were rejections, right? 2 universities gave me rejections. The remaining 5 universities gave me 6 offers. That clears it. Yeah. So what I did was that I mentioned truly the number of schools that I had applied to at the point of submitting that application. So if the first application I'm submitting is to the University of Iowa, I haven't submitted any other application. I haven't applied to any other school. So I'm going to say that I'm applying to only one program. If there is a space for me to mention the program and university, I would mention the University of Iowa as the only school that I've applied to. It's the only program I've applied to at that point. So I'm going to mention that. Then if the next application is, let's say, Georgetown University, and they ask me how many programs am I applying to or have I applied to, I'm going to mention 2, Georgetown University and the University of Iowa. I'm not certain about any other school yet because I haven't submitted it. I don't know if I am going to have an application fee challenge for the next program or the next school. So that's what I did. If the third university is, let's say, the University of Pittsburgh, and they ask me how many schools did I apply to, I'm going to say Georgetown University, the University of Iowa, and the University of Pittsburgh. That was how I approached it. Yeah, that's how I. Okay. So, Zachary, if your question has been answered, you can take down your hand. It looks like the next person I have here raising their hand is Olashade. Tell me if I didn't say that correctly.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Ugo. Yeah, it's Folashade. Yeah, so my question is, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. So my question is, for someone like me that has my undergraduate degree in public health, so applying for PhD, most of the PhD programs actually requires having a master's degree. So currently, I have my first semester of my master's degree, which I'm not yet through. And if I want to apply, can I use my first semester transcripts? I'm very certain that before 426 deadline, I can't be through with my second semester. So, and most of these schools strictly state that masters must be completed for me to be able to apply for PhD. So how will I go about that? I just finished my first semester of my master's degree.
That's a good question. For most, if not all programs, if a master's degree is required, they expect that by the time you will be resuming, that you've completed the program. So if you're applying to study or do a PhD program in public health, right? And your anticipated resumption date is fall 2026. They're expecting that by fall 2026, if the resumption is August, they are expecting that before you resume, if you are resuming, let's say on the 5th of August 2026, they're expecting that at least by 4th of August 2026, you must have completed your master's, right? And that is very important. It's rare to see a program that will negotiate that unless you actually completed the program, but due to an unforeseen challenge, they are unable to award the degree. But the problem is not coming from your end, right? You can communicate that with the program and they'll be like, okay, so what that means is that in a couple more months to go, you might get this degree conferred. So the program director, program coordinator will definitely work with you to ensure that they get that requirement sorted out for you. In fact, even before you finish your first year, there are programs that will tell you that the most before you finish the first year of your PhD, if that transcript is still pending, you might lose the program, you might lose the funding. So to be on the safe side, ask yourself, am I very certain that I'm going to complete this program, this master's program, by fall 2026 resumption? If the answer is no, then you have to look for public health PhD programs that require an undergraduate degree for a PhD admission. Currently know someone who is applying to PhD programs in epidemiology. They only have an undergraduate degree. So they are only targeting programs that do not require a master's, a PhD admission, just like my type of admission here. I came here with just a graduate degree. So if you are not certain that you're going to complete your master's degree by fall 2026, then I will advise that you look for programs that require a bachelor's degree for a PhD admission. What I would say about that, but also submit your current transcript. It will help. Submit your current transcript that shows that I'm doing a master's program, but I will not have completed my master's program by resumption. Another side to this is if you haven't completed your program, if you haven't completed your master's program, then how are you going to resume your PhD? Then you might want to clarify that by fall 2026, you would have finished your coursework. If you have finished your coursework, then of course, there is nothing left on your side to fulfill, right? So it's important to add, if it is the first semester, second semester, first year master's transcript that you have, it as a supplemental transcript in addition to the undergraduate transcript that you have. Focus mostly on PhD public health programs that are only an undergraduate degree to get into the program. Otherwise, you will be met with mostly rejections. That's what I would say. It looks like the next question that I have here is coming from Labisi.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much for the presentation. I would like to ask regarding the statement of purpose. Now, while writing the statement of purpose, and we are probably citing journals, so is it necessary to make a reference section for the citations for the journal cited in the course of the SOP?
Good question. I've seen people do that. I think it's unnecessary. It's not necessary. It's not needed. You can cite and then use footnotes. You can use footnotes to include some of the materials that you've cited. Let me see what I can do here. I might not be able to show an example for that, but search, if you already know how to do that, perfect. If you don't know, just search online how to add footnotes. So what that does is that for every citation that you have, the footnote goes to the footer. That is the bottom section of the page, right? So you can include up to like 2 or 3 footnotes, a footer, right? Don't do a lot of citations. You are not writing a research article, right? Only cite what you think is necessary, So have somewhere between 1 to maybe 4 or 5 citations if you need it. I've seen people who have received really what I would call mouth-watering offers. They didn't cite. They just talked about their passion, their motivation, what they want to do, why they qualify for it, and all of that. But use footer. Don't include a references page, because the reason I'm saying that is that some programs and universities would say 1 to 2 pages. So when you add a references page, you're already going beyond the number of pages they asked you to submit. So sometimes I'm a teaching assistant. We do grading, and when students don't meet the requirements, or when they, will I say, violate the requirements that we ask them of, you take points off. So for instance, if we said do not submit more than 500 words, and then you submit 700 words, in as much as you've exceeded the requirement, you might expect that we applaud you, but going beyond that, people differ in the way they grade. Someone might take points off. You are not sticking to the rubric. So don't include a references page, in my opinion. Use footnotes. Yeah, so I don't know if the next person is Asmao. Can I ask your question?
Thank you so much, sir. Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm actually glad to meet you. I am so impressed with your achievements, and I'm looking forward to doing amazing things as well. So my question is actually one is, how did you manage your time? Because combining work and preparing for GRE exams, trying to draft SOPs and the rest is quite challenging. And then my second question is around how to divert or convince the grad schools to accept my application, despite the fact that I don't have the skills that they need. I'm actually an accounting student, and then there are some skills which they need over there, which I don't have now. But if I am given the opportunity, I'm going to do great. So please, what do you advise or a hint I can use to convince them? Thank you.
Yeah, good questions. The first session that we had was recorded, day one. We talked about time management, but I'll just briefly recap. I think it's just about the solution to this is starting early. If you start early, you'll be able to plan strategically and intentionally. If you start early, you will realize that even though there are lots of things you can do, you can take each requirement one step at a time. So you can first of all maybe start with your CV and say, okay, this week or in the next 2 weeks, I'm dedicating the next 2 weeks to working on my CV. So maybe I really have time, but I have at least 30 minutes or 1 hour every day. I can dedicate that to improving, drafting and improving and working on my CV. So every day you make conscious efforts on improving that CV until when that 1 week is done, 2 weeks is done, you have your CV, you move to the next task. So, okay, SOP, I'm dedicating the next 1 week or 2 weeks. You do it that way, even if it's 30 minutes every day, like that. If you start late, you realize that it's going to be nearly impossible because there'll be too many things to do and then you have limited time. So starting early is the hack for this. But if you haven't started early, you'll maximize your time. Take one thing at a time, but keep the deadlines, in mind, but take one thing at a time. And then convincing grad school to accept you without skills it's mission impossible if it's very obvious that you do not have the required skills. So why should they accept you, right? But again, something I'm going to mention here is that a scholarship application or grad school application package is something that they look at holistically. They look at the entire package. They don't just make their offer based on one requirement. So the offer you are going to get is not going to be strictly because you have a first class. It's not going to be strictly because you had lots of leadership experiences. No, they are going to look at all of this together. So if the skills are the only things you don't have, what I talked about, the need for doing SWOT analysis, doing a SWOT analysis of your application, yourself, and then realizing what your strengths and weaknesses are. So maximize your strengths and downplay the weaknesses, right? So talk about those things that make you a very strong applicant because they require so many things beyond those specific skills. So highlight those other things that you have. Then talk about you are consciously making efforts towards acquiring these skills. Don't just say you don't have it. What efforts are you making to acquire those skills? Mm. Next question. Someone said, I recently reached out to the program coordinator to ask about my fit for the PhD program. A few days later, I received an email from one of the faculty members who mentioned that the coordinator had forwarded my message to him. He said he liked my background and thought I would be a good fit for the program and that he was looking forward to reading my application. When I looked up his profile, I realized that his research focuses more on banking and financial intermediation, while my main interests are in behavioral and household finance. That left me a bit uncertain about whether I should mention him in my statement of purpose or not, since our research areas don't completely overlap. The program coordinator had already shared my CV and background with him, so I want to be thoughtful about how I approach this in my application. Kindly advise me. Good question. What I would say is that sometimes, because of our limited experience and limited expertise in the field, we might not know how some of these different research areas intersect, right? So I would recommend you follow up with this professor that reached out to you and share this concern. Say you check them out, you read more of their works, and you realize that they do more of this, whereas you are interested in this. You are wondering if might not think about the right way to place this right now because I'm thinking of how to figure that out in my head. But just share this concern with them. You are wondering if you are still a good fit, considering that you think your interests are not similar, you know. But I mean, work on this and refine it and reach out. They will definitely tell you what they think. Our professors tell me all their research interests sort of intersect with what I do. And it made me realize more how, could still work with them. So good question. Someone else asked, is it necessary to include references for journals cited? Okay, we've already talked about. In addition, does the bibliography of the citation count as part of the work? Why they might not consider it as counting towards the number of pages, they might see it as you not being able to keep to instruction. So just use footnotes. What if your leadership experience doesn't relate to the course or academics? Can you still talk about it? Yes, when I talked about the CV structure, I did say that your accomplishments, your achievements, your experiences should be tailored, should be things that are related to the program that you are applying to. Don't bring a bartender experience to your CV when you're applying to an engineering program, unless you want to let us know how they connect, right? But there are some things that don't necessarily have to be related. For example, leadership experience, right? The leadership experience that you have might not necessarily be something that is directly related to the program. It has only provided you with an opportunity to be a leader, to be someone who is a change maker in the society and all of those things. It doesn't have to be exactly related to what you do. Then someone said, just the way MT Scholarship holds interviews for each applicant. Okay. The days of Ebola disease when people baited with salt water. Okay, yeah, that was about my experience. Leave on a tree. Okay. It looks like we don't have more questions. Someone is asking, what if your recommenders are not professors? They are all lecturers. Oh, based on the clarifications I provided, in Nigeria, the titles professors have differ from the kind of titles they have here. We have like lecturer one, lecturer two, and all of those things. It's still okay. They are the people that taught you. But if this is a full-fledged university or polytechnic, then trust me, they are definitely going to be senior lecturers in your department. Try and get senior lecturers or even full professors to write recommendation letters for you. But in the absence of these, you can actually use lecturers, okay? They taught you, especially if they taught you. Yeah, their recommendation will still hold water because they taught you, they know you as their students, and they can make recommendation on your behalf. But something else other departments and universities clarify is that they will tell you if you have been away from school for like close to 10 years, they don't expect you to submit academic recommendations. Some of them clearly state that because they know you've been away from school for a long time. Some of your professors may have transferred to other universities. They may have, maybe they are no longer at your university. Some of them may have retired and then all of those things. You may have lost contact with your professors, so they understand you've been away for a long time. But if you are a recent graduate, they want to have at least, if they require 3 recommendations, at least 2 will come from your faculty, like people who taught you, your teachers. Then maybe 1 from your place of work to balance it. That would be good. Does my final year project count as an independent research experience? Some schools ask for total research hours. Yeah, what is it called? Yeah, your undergraduate thesis counts towards your research experience. And then you can then ask yourself, how many hours? I talked about my final year project being 6 credit hours. And so 6 credits. So it means that, it differs across universities. So for some programs and university, it might be that if it is a 3 credit unit or 2 credit unit, it might mean that for every week that course requires you to dedicate 2 to 3 hours working on that. Maybe 1 hour, 2 hours of class, 1 hour working on assignments or working on project out of class. Yeah, you can calculate that throughout the semester and mention that, okay, throughout the semester, you dedicated this amount of hours to working on your project. So yeah, independent research, definitely thesis counts towards that. I'm currently applying for a program, and one of the documents needed to complete the application is a mini research proposal of not more than 500 words. Could easily fit into a one-page A4 or later size Microsoft Word document. What do you suggest I do to make my research proposal stand out? Components of a good research proposal. What is the title? What do you want to work on? What's the title? You might want to provide a very short abstract, sort of tight summary of what you envisage, what you intend to do, what the problem is, the method you intend to use to collect and analyze data, what are the anticipated findings. So title, a very short abstract or no abstract at all, a very short background, some sort of introduction, giving us insight into what the problem is. What are the research questions or hypotheses that you intend to investigate, right? What method do you intend, a description of the method you intend to use for data collection and analysis? What are the anticipated findings? Then you include references section, so that we can see an organized form of all the citations that you included. Yeah, so not more than 500 words. I see that as one page, especially if it is like 1.5, even 2.0. And then in one of my applications, they asked for an undergraduate science GPA. In for an overall undergraduate GPA, how do I go about this? I recommend you reach out to the program director or coordinator to seek clarification on that. For schools that don't require you to submit a personal statement, can you submit it as a supplementary essay? Absolutely. If you have written, a personal statement and you think that would help, you can add that as a supplementary document. Make sure you name it very well so that they can tell what the document is all about. Also, for schools that require both personal statement and statement of purpose, how do you go about writing a good personal statement so you don't repeat what's being written on your statement of purpose? So basically, personal statement is very heavy on your experiences, your personal story. It favors the folks who have a story behind, their motivation, what inspires them to pursue further studies, right? The story behind your experiences and your motivation. But then statement of purpose, we've already, discussed about that in detail. You can refer back to recording from day one, the day our very first session. If your work experience is not related to your graduate school research interest, how do you mention it on your SOP and CV? Do you mention the transferable skills acquired from it? Perfect. Transferable skills. And what about that work experience, can make you, let's say, maybe a better civil engineer, or transferable skills that you already answered that. So mention what is transferable. If there are no transferable skills from that work experience, then it shouldn't be on that CV. It should only be, that's why I call it relevant work experience. That section, I call it relevant work experiences that are related to what you intend to pursue. If one's undergraduate program is already published, one's undergraduate project is already published, is it still advisable to present the abstract of the research in conferences? Dr. Taiwo provided a response. Most conferences accept abstracts that have not been published. This is true. You may want to confirm with the organizers. Yeah, most of them don't want you to submit something you've already published somewhere, because conferences are like, they are avenues for you to get feedback on your project. Something you could feedback that could be very helpful, to the project. But if you've already published it, even if they give you feedback, it's no longer useful because the project has already been published. Can I use my retired IT supervisor as my fourth recommender? If the program needs a fourth recommender and you already have academic recommenders and maybe you have another professional recommender, and this is something that just helps you meet or exceed the requirement, for me, I would do that. Otherwise, I might have to reach out to someone else who worked with at the time. They might not be in a supervisory role. So, for example, when I worked at a university, at Benue State University, a core member was assigned to a professor that I was assisting to teach some entry-level courses, right? If that person is no longer there, if the person has retired or is no longer available to write a recommendation later, I might reach out to the head of department, whom I might not have worked directly under, but was, of course, the head of the entire department and knew about my work and my experience at that university. So, yeah. But I doubt if there's a program that needs 4 recommendation. I've seen 3 maximum, but of course there might be universities and programs that require 4, and especially all these Masterclass scholarships, that Chevnin, those ones might require more. I don't know about that, but yeah. Any other question?
I'm sorry for interrupting. She was actually asking if she could remove one of her lecturers and include her IT supervisor if she
Oh,
needs 3 recommenders. Yeah.
okay. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't remove a lecturer or my professor and replace that with an IT supervisor. But it depends on your program. So for instance, if it is a highly professional program, if it is a program that places little or no emphasis on research, or most of these programs, like trying to think of an example, maybe an MBA, that sometimes, or even another example is public health, right? If you've been a public health professional for like 3 to 5 years, for instance, and you've worked mostly with fellow public health professionals, getting recommendations from, public health professionals might be more impactful on your application, even more than professors. But there are programs that offer MPH, Master of Public Health, and then offer Master of Science in Public Health. And then there is more emphasis on the professional side in the MPH program than the MS program. They also have like the Doctor of Philosophy PhD in Public Health, and then they also have a Doctor of Public Health. One emphasizes more on professional experiences over the other. So you want to know, yeah, so check that out. Know what they are looking for, because they will tell you, we need recommendations, we need 3 or 4, and these are the kind of recommendations that we need. Most of these things are on the admissions requirement page. So I've finished going through the questions that people asked in the chat, and then I think we have 2 more hands. And then after that, if there are no more hands, we can, Peace, you can go next. And then after Peace, Zachary, you can go after Peace if you have questions.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Ugo.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. The lecture has really been very, very insightful. I've learned so much. Thank you. So mine is not like a question. I would say that I'm in a dilemma. Let me put it that way. Okay, during my code emailing era, I remember that mostly all the professors, especially in US, they usually come up with almost similar response, like, okay, I welcome this, your research interest. It truly aligns with mine. Some will tell you that there is an overlap with their own research interest, but then I'm not in admission committee. But go ahead and mention me in your statement of purpose. So we tell you, don't worry, I'll be happy to work with you once you have been admitted. But there is this particular woman professor that, but she told me that, and she told me that truly that she would like to, supervise my work. But then that she also stated it that she's not in admission committee, but I should send my application material like SOP so she can help me look at it, which I actually did. And she, she looked at it and told me what and what to work on. And to be honest, I appreciated that because of all the people, all the intended supervisors in US, she is the only one that went like extra mile for me. So I kind of put her school, I kind of put her school like one of my top, in the application. But then immediately the application opened. When I went to the school website to check on the application criteria and what have you, when I saw the criteria, okay, these people, they are asking for official transcripts, and they also ask for West evaluation or any other evaluation company like that. Then, okay, I'm already trying to because I'm already trying to, do my West evaluation, waiting for my institution to send my transcript to West, to complete my evaluation. But then they also ask for official transcript for each of my programs that I've already completed. And for me, I have 2 masters and 1 bachelor. And one of them, which is ABU Amadu Bello, these people are collecting $200 to send 1 transcript to international institution. For West, for me to send my transcript to West, they charge me $200. And now this school is also asking me, aside that of West, I also need to send that of Amadu Bello to them. I'm saying this because my first master's and undergraduate, at least I know that one, their cost is less than 100,000, it's about 60 something thousand. But this other one, like 200,000. Now, considering the cost, and to be honest, the cost is like when I think of it, I don't even know where to start. That's why I say that my case is a case, I'm just in a dilemma. So I don't know what to do. I don't know, like maybe I should like jettison, this particular school. But at the same time, my conscience is like not letting me go because this woman went extra mile, among every other person that I reached out to. So I'm just trying to like seek your opinion. What do you think, or what direction do you think I should go in this case?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for providing context so I can understand the situation better. Yeah, I also had a professor who went extra mile to look at my SOP when I was applying. And of course, I ended up submitting an application to that very school. Something I want to mention is I've never seen any professor who is on an admission committee will tell you or that will admit they are on an admissions committee. The reason is conflict of interest. They don't want you to know that they are on the committee, and they don't want you to think that they might have influence on your admission. Some of them might be on the admissions committee, but they tell you it's unethical to share with you that they are on the committee. Because the idea is the only figurehead is the program director. They don't want you to start, harboring grudge over one professor because, oh, you were on the admissions committee. Why didn't you get me admitted? So that's it. When they say they are happy to work with you, that's not an admission offer. That's not a guarantee that you are going to get it. They are mostly encouraging you to submit, right? So they can have more and more applicants to review. Trust me, at the end of the day, they are going to choose the very best of the best. requiring official transcripts for each, I think what you should weigh here is the financial implication. You should make sacrifice for what you value. So if you have the resources to see you through this transcript submission process, the WES evaluation, I really recommend you do it. Really recommend you do it. But if you check within yourself and you think this is too much for me, I can't do it, please don't. There are more than 4,000 universities in the US alone, and there are several other universities that offer your program that you should consider. That's what I would advise. Zachary, do you still have a question?
Yes, the question is about the email of the recommenders, because almost the three of my recommenders, the two of them, they all have this Yahoo email. They don't have the school email. I don't know. They didn't send me the school email. I even asked them for it, but they told me that this is the one they are using. So I don't know. That's cost something to my application or not. That's just the question.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes some of the things that we suffer the result of things people have already done in the past. When you hear of very stringent visa policies, admission policies, it's because of maybe fraudulent cases that they've had in the past. So, for instance, a student can create, for instance, I can just, it won't take me up to 5 minutes to take off my phone and create an email with Michael Taiwo, then pose as if I am Michael Taiwo. They don't require any credential verification to be sure that I'm Dr. Taiwo. So anybody can create an email and maybe just give it Dr. Taiwo365@gmail.com and then use it. So how does the committee know that truly this recommendation is coming from Dr. Taiwo if it is not an institutional or an organizational email? It's difficult. So that's why they appreciate it if you use an official, an institutional, organizational email, which is what I recommend. So what I did with my professors was to let them know that the university, the program clearly requires that they use their institutional emails, right? And then some of them, I realized that some of them have it, but they just prefer using their Gmail or Yahoo Mail for easy communication and all of that, because maybe the Gmail has an app that makes it very easy for them to gain access to and reply emails, maybe compared to their institutional email that might not be hosted on Outlook or might not have an app that allows, they might have to go to a website, sign in to gain access. So some of them, just for that reason, they don't want to use it. So just share this concern with them, let them know that it's part of the admissions process. They require that they use their institutional, organizational email for authenticity. They want to be sure it's coming from there. If you stress that authenticity part of it, it will make them realize why they need to use it. And most of the universities in Nigeria, I can't speak for all of them, but most of the universities are now having institutional emails. So my professors used it. I think I had only one professor who there was a unique challenge around it, and they had to use their Gmail. So in that case, two of my recommenders, one from Ebonyi State University, had an email address that ended with @epsu.edu.edu. So .edu. So that showed that, oh, this is something affiliated with Ebonyi State University coming from an authentic source. The other one was from Benue State University, where I was serving. It had @bsu.edu.ng. Verifiable, very authentic. But one didn't have it. So that was okay. These two recommendations are coming from institutional, organizational emails. Just one is coming from a Gmail. So, but what the professor did was that they used letterhead, they signed and endorsed, then printed and scanned, right? And then they also included additional phone number and other things, and said for additional information that they should feel free to reach out. And they also provided additional context that there was a situation he was having with his official email and could not access it. But so he had to like provide of links to just to provide more authenticity, like, okay, you can reach me using this phone number, which is officially stated on my institutional bio page on the university. When you go to the university website, go to the program website, go to the list of faculty, and you click on my name, you are going to see my phone number listed on the university website. This is the very phone number. Use it to reach out to me. And you can also see that this email address is an alternative email that I provided on my institutional bio page and all of that. But I highly recommend institutional and official email addresses. Thank you. Any other question? Grace?
All right, good evening. Thank you for the session so far. So my question is regarding gaps or inconsistencies in the academic journey. So for some schools, they require that you address such gaps or inconsistencies. And for schools that don't require that, I still believe we have to talk about it. Okay, so how do I address that effectively so that to show that I have the potential to do well in the graduate program? For example, in my case, I have a 5-year gap between my bachelor's and master's, which I'm currently doing. And then for the 5 years, I had just maybe like 2 years of teaching experience and other experiences that are not worth mentioning in my essay. So how do you think I should address that? Thank you.
Good question. I have a similar case. In fact, I've looked at the SOP that addresses something like this. So sometimes you don't have to clearly mention that, okay, I have a 5-year gap between my bachelor's degree and now that I want to pursue my PhD or master's, and this is what I've been doing. These are intellectuals reviewing your application. They can easily connect the dots. So for instance, if someone who graduated, let's say 2015, and this is 2025, it's a 10-year gap. Then they say upon graduation, they have taken up a position, a position at this workplace, and this is what they've been doing for the past 10 years. And at that organization, they are charged with the responsibility of doing this, and that. So by mentioning that after the undergraduate degree, they got a job to do this, and they are still there, and this is what they do, it already gives the person reviewing your application the information that they need. Okay, you left school 10 years ago, and for these 10 years, this is what you have been doing. And what you have been. So in the case of this person is a public health professional, right? And then they are applying to a public health program. So that was how they were able to use the same stone to kill several birds. After my undergraduate degree, I took up a public health, role at this organization. And that is what I've been doing in the last years. And in that position, this is what I've been able to accomplish, and the experience that I gathered from these 10 years working with these people, identify this problem. And that's why I want to pursue a PhD to acquire more skills, more knowledge, more expertise to address this problem. So, like you said, the other experiences might not be relevant. So just mention the experiences that are relevant. And you don't need to clearly say, this is how you explain the gap here. Just talking about what you've been doing within that time frame, it already answers it. I don't know if that was clear.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So maybe in the absence of any other question, I will hand the platform over to T Scholarships to tell us.
Wow, thank you very much, Ugo, for this 2 hours plus spent with our scholars. I believe it has been impactful. And to our scholars, we keep encouraging you to apply. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Try and send it to the group or try and reach out privately if you are too shy. All right, so we'll be ending this meeting. Enjoy the rest of your evening for those in the Watts time zone. Thank you.
Thank you.